Hello Hex Kittens! Welcome back to another episode of Knitting's a Drag! I'm Alexis Hex, and today we're getting ready for the holiday season by crocheting this granny square Christmas tree. Now, when I saw these Christmas trees, like online, I saw pictures of them, and I was like, these are amazing. And, you know, there was no, like, written tutorial, there was kind of, like, a lot of photo stuff, and I was like, I need to make one of these one day. And when I was out and about, I just loved the texture of this yarn, and I was like, oh my god, that's going to add such another layer to this. And I can't wait to share how to make this with you right now. So to make the Christmas trees, you can use either Scrubby Sparkle or original Red Heart Scrubby. To demonstrate, I will be using the original Red Heart Scrubby, just because I think it'll show up easier on camera. However, if you were to do this pattern at home, you will need 2 balls of the green of the regular Scrubby, whereas with the Sparkle, you will only need 1. Alright, to start, I'm going to use a size 5F crochet hook. And we're going to take our yarn. We're going to go to make our slip knot, but we're going to leave it open because we're going to do the magic loop. Like if you saw my previous granny square video, you'll know just what we're doing. So before pulling this totally shut, we're going to chain 3, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets to get our first little cluster. And there's the second one. Alright, so we have our first granny cluster. Then we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to do 3 more double crochets into that same ring. When I saw this Scrubby and I said, this is perfect for this pattern. I had been wanting to make this pattern. I looked for it, there's a ton of tutorials for this. We're at the chain 2 part again, and we're gonna do 3 more. And I was kind of obsessed with this vintage pattern, and I was kind of like, this will be my take on it. And I like to do something a little different than what other people do. And I just thought this texture looked just kind of like pine trees. I will say doing it's a little more difficult in the original Scrubby. It's a little bit more textured than the Sparky Scrubble. Or the Scrubby Sparkle, rather. I can talk. But they both give really cool, different, unique looks that'll still both work beautifully to make these Christmas trees. Alright, and we are on our last cluster for our first round for the granny square. And 3. This is the point where I like to pull it through. There we go. And then we're going to 1, 2. Then we're going to join up here with a slip stitch. And we'll slip stitch over all the way. There we go. And that is your first round of the granny square. Then sometimes, especially with the original Scrubby, it takes a little bit to get that little tight in on the magic ring part. Alright, now that we're back at the corner. So we are going to chain 3, which will be our first double crochet. 2 more double crochets in this space. All right, followed by chain 2, and then we're gonna do 3 double crochets into this space as well. And there we go. We have made our first corner. So we're gonna go over this cluster. So we're just gonna chain 1. And then we're gonna go back into the next corner. So we're going to 1 double crochet. We're gonna do 2 more double crochets. So we're doing 2, chain 2 there, and then we're doing 3 more double crochets in this corner stitch. And 1 more. And then we're going to chain 1 to go over this cluster, and we're back in the corner again. All right, and here's our 3rd double crochet. Excellent. Chain 2. And what's nice too is the texture, kind of like if you have an uneven stitch, or even if, you know, sometimes it's a little difficult to pull through all the way because of the texture, you're never going to really see it because that's, you know, it's all hidden within the texture anyway. So it's kind of, you know, as it can be a little difficult to work with sometimes, it's also very forgiving because you can't really see any of the mistakes that could be possibly made because of it being a little bit more difficult, if that makes sense. So it's like, its difficulty hides that it's kind of difficult sometimes. That's the end of that corner. So we're going to chain 1 again. And we're into the next corner, the final corner. And we're going to get all in there with our first cluster. Chain 2. And there is the final double crochet of that round. We're going to chain 1 and then attach the top with a slip stitch. As you see, like, yeah, sometimes you got to re-pull that little center part a little bit, keep that tight, but that all gets woven in at the end. But there is 2 rounds of green. So at this point we are going to cut our yarn. Pull that through to secure. And now we're going to move on to the round of white. All right, so we're going to go into that first corner where we left off. We're going to work right into the corner. We're going to attach the white with a slip stitch, and we're going to chain 3, counts as our first double crochet, and that tail yarn has been laying over, so we're kind of working over that to help secure it a little bit. So that's always helpful. The trick in crochet is to work on over. And I'm even going to work part of my white tail over. So now I'm going to double crochet. Here we go, and double crochet. So we yarn over, pull up a loop, pull up through 2, Excellent. And then we're going to chain 2 because this is the corner. And then 3 more double crochets into that corner stitch. Alright, perfect. So then chain 1. And we got a space here. So this is not a corner space. We're just going to do our regular 3 double crochets into that space. And then chain 1. And then we're back at a corner. So again, that's 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets to make that corner. Chain 1 into the sides. We're going to do 3 here. And chain 1, and we're back at the corner. And I'm going to finish off this last round, and I'll meet you at the end. Alright, so I finished the last cluster on the side here. I'm going to chain 1, attach with a slip stitch, and because this is the first square, the smallest square, there's one more thing to be done. At this point on any of the larger squares, this is where you would fasten it off and be done, but since it's the top one, I'm going to slip stitch all the way into the corner, and then I'm going to chain, chain 8, and we're going to attach with another slip stitch in that same space. Then we can cut our yarn. There we go. So that gives you a little hanging loop so you can hang it up on your wall or wherever you choose. And you'll only do that on this first one. The rest of the squares you will just do as normal. So after you do that, you got to make a couple more. So you have square 1 with 2 rounds of green, square 2 with 3 rounds of green, square 3 with 4 rounds of green, square 4 with 5 rounds of green, square 5 with 6 rounds of green, and finally square 6 with 7 rounds of green. Next we're going to take some brown to make a trunk, and we're going to chain, I chain 12, and we're going to do half double crochets. So we're going to skip this stitch and go into here, and half double crochet is yarn over, and we're going to pull up a loop and then pull up through all 3 loops, And we're going to continue all the way down, just going into the top loops here. And pull through all 3. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, and pull through all 3. There we go. There we go. And yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. Alright, we'll do that all the way to the end, and I'll see you there. Alright, so working back now, we have 10 half double crochets, and we are going to chain 2, and we are going to do half double crochets, and instead of going through both, we're still going to just do the top loop. We're going to give a little texture to the wood on our trunk. So we're going to do that top loop only. That on all the way down. I'll show you again. So we're going to yarn over, and it's normally you would go through both parts of the top of the loop, but for this we're only going through this top part. And we're going to pull up that loop and pull through all 3 loops. All right. All the way down. Pull up a loop. Through 3. Excellent. Oh, I missed my yarn over. There we go. Yarn over. Go. Pull, and pull through all 3. And there we go. We're at the end of the row, and we are going to do one more row of half double crochets into the top stitch. So I will do that, and I will meet you back here at the end of it. Alright, so I've made my last half double crochet. We're gonna cut our yarn and pull that through the loop to secure it, giving us our trunk. Alright, we're gonna start off with the largest square. We're gonna fold it up so that here's your center. The white part hits right up over the center. Then take your darning needle and come up through from the bottom and make sure you're coming up in this green cluster. There we go. And then come down through the other cluster. Coming back through the other side. And that'll secure that here. You can come up a couple more times. You can come up a little bit in the chain space here on the other side. Come back down to the other chain space. Anything you can do to get that secured. And then on the back side, just kind of pick up a little bit underneath. And kind of knot it off, and just kind of continue to do that a little bit. Where it came from. Go. sometimes it's grippy, you might have to cut off a little bit, but there we go. Now you can see that part is all connected. Then you will take the next biggest one. There we go. But we're just going to add an extra step to it this time. So now we're going to take the next biggest and do the same thing. We're going to fold the white up to the center. And then from underneath, this time we're going to come through from behind the bigger one. I'm going to go back up through the center. Up in the middle of that. And then through that cluster, down through this cluster, back to the center, and then we're going to make sure we go through all the way to the back of the bottom one. Pull that through here. Go. And secure that. And there we go. So as you can see, it secures that, creating the little shape of your tree. And then, yeah, so once that is secured, you'll want to do that same thing going up with each one of the smallers being added. And then you'll add the red buttons, which I will show you. But before we do that, I'm going to add the trunk to the bottom. Alright, so you're going to take your trunk we made. Kind of come through here. You can kind of work your way through the clusters to come back on the other side. Pull that in, and then you're going to want to work your way down the edge of this trunk. Kind of pull it snug so that it's nice and secure. And then just weave in the ends like you normally would. Alright, and then pull it, straighten it out a little bit so that it doesn't, pull on itself when you've tightened it. Snip that. And then we'll repeat for this one. And let's go in and over the green. That. And we'll work our way down. So weaving in along the side of the trunk. That off. And that is what it looks like when you add the trunk. So once you've finished doing all the squares, I'm going to show you on the sparkle one. You add them all, and then you add the little buttons on top of where you connected. And you have a beautiful granny square Christmas tree that you can just hang right up on your wall. I just thought this would be a lovely thing to make, and I am so glad that I decided to play with these scrubby yarns, because I just think that it's add that extra layer of texture to it, and that adds a little sparkle, or I think the regular scrubby looks just like pine needles. So there you have it, everything you need to know to make these vintage granny square Christmas trees. Well, that's all there is to it.
I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like it, subscribe to my channel, share this video with a friend, and I would love to see your finished projects. Tweet me. Show me where you've hung it. Is it hanging on the wall? Is it on your door? I want to see it. Show me all the photos. I mean, I'm a drag queen. I want attention. Just tweet me everything. And until next time, stay hexy. Bye.